At some point in her life, a woman stops caring about men in the way she used to. And the most disturbing thing about it is that it has nothing to do with being hurt. No heartbreak, no betrayal, no terrible relationship that poisoned everything after it. The interest just goes. Quietly and permanently and without a clear explanation, she can give anyone. And if you have ever felt that, or are feeling it right now, there is a very specific psychological reason for it. One that most therapists will not name, and that mainstream relationship culture will never even acknowledge. If that landed somewhere inside you, stay with me. Because what we are going to explore today is something that mainstream psychology has barely touched, something that most relationship advice actively runs away from. It is this: why some women, as they move deeper into their own psyche, genuinely stop caring about romantic relationships with men, not out of bitterness, not out of trauma, but because something inside them has undergone a structural change so fundamental that the very desire for that kind of connection quietly dissolves. This video draws on the work of Carl Jung, on Jungian analysts Marion Woodman and Barbara Hanna, on Robert A. Johnson's work on romantic love as a psychological phenomenon, and on the concept of individuation, the lifelong process Jung described as becoming who you actually are, underneath everything you were taught to perform. These are not easy ideas, but I promise you, by the end of this, something will look different. Not fixed, just clearer. Let's start with something that almost nobody talks about honestly. But Jung identified a structure in the female psyche he called the animus, the inner masculine, the part of a woman's soul that carries qualities like direction, assertion, discernment, and the capacity to cut through confusion and act. Now, here is what makes this interesting. Jung observed that women do not generally begin life with direct access to those qualities within themselves. Instead, they tend to project them outward onto men. The father who seems to know everything, the partner who brings the sense of purpose or stability she hasn't yet found inside herself, the mentor, the authority figure, the man who feels like he holds something she is looking for. This is not a flaw. It is a developmental stage. It is, in a sense, how the psyche learns, by first seeing its own potential reflected in someone outside. But here is where it gets complicated. When a woman spends decades in that projection, when she organizes her sense of self, her sense of meaning, her emotional stability around the idea that someone else carries those qualities she needs, the day that projection begins to withdraw is deeply disorienting. It can feel like loss, like grief, like the colors going out of the world, and most people around her will misread that moment entirely. They will tell her she is depressed, or that she needs to get back out there, or that she just hasn't found the right person yet. What almost nobody will say to her is, what you are experiencing might not be a crisis. It might be the beginning of something that has no name in ordinary language. Jung observed 4 stages in the development of the animus inside a woman's psyche. In the first stage, it appears as pure physical strength, the man as body, as presence, as raw energy. In the second, as the man of action, the one who solves, who protects, who rescues. In the third, as the man of words, the teacher, the philosopher, the one who seems to carry wisdom. And in the fourth, the stage Jung called Sophia, from the Greek word for wisdom, the animus no longer appears as a figure outside the woman at all. It has been absorbed into her. It has become her own discernment, her own direction, her own inner voice. She no longer needs to find it in anyone else, because it is now structurally hers. This is not a metaphor. This is a map of an actual psychological process. And the strange consequence of that process is this. When a woman has genuinely internalized her animus, the romantic draw she once felt toward men begins to quiet. Not because she hates them, not because she was hurt, but because the psychological function that romantic attraction was serving, finding her own lost strength reflected back to her through someone else, simply no longer needs to be served that way. Barbara Hanna, one of Jung's closest colleagues and a woman who studied the female psyche for decades, described this as finding the spirit of inner truth.